Welcome everyone to my most disappointing films of 2018. As you can see, it's a new background. Now these most disappointing lists. Here for the most disappointing, none of these. There are 13 options here. None of these I hate. Some are okay to average, disappointing, but we have 13 picks, and one of them is kind of guilty pleasure somewhat, but still hadn't made a list. We have 13 options here, and we're gonna go through this as simple as I can. Number 13 is White Boy Rick. Now, I was kind of curious about White Boy Rick because it was based on a true story, and you have a 16-year-old from back in the 80s being a drug lord and an FBI helper, all that before he eventually got caught. The results is a mixed bag at best. You have some good acting from everyone, from Piper Laurie. You have Billy from the 2017 Power Rangers film in here. Matthew McConaughey, the one who plays Rick, does pretty good. You have some decent cinematography, direction, and solid enough soundtrack, but it's the writing and doesn't really make the film 100% interesting, and it does gloss over important things because this is based on a true story. But White Boy Rick it's serviceable, but definitely could have been a lot better. In number 12, we have The Possession of Hannah Grace. Now, just like Blumhouse Truth or Dare, this does have another former Pretty Little Lies actress when in the case of Shay Mitchell. However, as I said in my review, I did say it does go into hard cliche mode. There's a little bit of jump scares. The story is pretty interesting, I'll give you that. And the acting is pretty solid, and the cinematography and direction is decent enough, and the acting, it's nice, but like I said, this in the review, there are some moments here that kind of just goes way too overboard. There's not really much of interesting kills, and it is again a waste of not only Shay Mitchell but the narcotic. But it's somewhat of a guilty pleasure, I guess, but still disappointing. Now, this next one, number 11, I just really don't care for at all. And it is 2018's Illumination version of The Grinch. I know there are some people out there who like this more than the Jim Carrey version, but at least the Jim Carrey version, they added some things to make it updated and make it its own film. Where this movie is just basically by the books, and you barely do little to nothing new with the source material at all. The animation's nice, and Benedict Cumberbatch is the Grinch. He's really good, and the rest of the voice acting is really good, and you got some. It is heartwarming, but at the end of the day, the one with Boris Karloff and the 2000 live-action film with Jim Carrey are still easily the best ones, in my personal opinion. Number 10, we have Terminal, starring Margot Robbie, Simon Pegg, and Mike Myers. This was one of my most anticipated, and it unfortunately let me down. Yeah. The problem here is basically style over substance. It does have a good visual style. It does have some entertaining moments. It does have good performances here, but there's not really much to the story or much to the characters, and the fact that this film is just all over substance, and you have good actors like Margot Robbie and Mike Myers from Shrek and Simon Pegg, kind of makes this movie a very, generic spy thriller. But Terminal, it was okay. Number 9, there are some fans of this one, but Disney's A Wrinkle in Time. Here, I get the story, the part of her, the girl trying to save her dad. The other stuff, however, you just made this movie very convoluted. A little too much going on. And people, they say the same exact thing about Aquaman and Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, but those movies are easy for me to follow. It's easy for me to follow here when it comes to her trying to get her dad. The other stuff, not so much. And the tone at the end of this movie goes from light to dark. I do like Ava DuVernay's direction. I do like Oprah Winfrey and Mindy Kaling, Reese Witherspoon. The cast is good, and the visual style is good. I do like the music. And the story, like I said, it is pretty interesting when you get to the part of her finding her dad and them going to other worlds. It's just that all this other stuff surrounding that makes this film hard to follow. But it was alright for a one-time watch. Number 8. This is another one, my most anticipated, and it is the first Star Wars movie I was let down by, and that is Solo: A Star Wars Story. Now, there are a lot of people who hate these new Star Wars films. They hate Episode 7, they hate Rogue One, they hate Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I defend all 3 of those. And Star Wars Episode 9, I am excited for it this year, because we are in 2019. But Solo: A Star Wars Story, the problem I have here is that it wasn't needed. I know it's a movie about Han Solo, but it's cool seeing Han Solo. It was cool seeing Chewbacca. Donald Glover, he did good as Lando Calrissian. The actor from Beautiful Creatures, Alden Ehrenreich, he plays Han Solo. He does good. You have Emilia Clarke's Kira, and Woody Harrelson is pretty good. But I didn't like the villain, even though Paul Bettany does a good job here. Tandy Newton, usually I do like Tandy Newton, but this is just a little, she's so-so here. And I didn't like the robot in this one. I do like seeing Darth Maul. I do like some action. I do like some jokes, but I think this would have been better if the 2 guys who did 21 Jump Street, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who also had a hand in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was the reason why I love that film so much. And both 21 and 22 Jump Street, and both versions, the Lego Movie 1 and Lego Movie 2, even though they're not directing Lego Movie 2. Like I said, I feel like it would have been better if we saw what they wanted to do. But Ron Howard's direction is pretty decent. Solo, it's a letdown, but it's a watchable letdown, I guess, but you don't really care too much about any of the new characters because you're not really going to see them again until Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Lando Calrissian. You won't see Lando until Empire Strikes Back, which is not the best Star Wars movie for me, but I really like Empire Strikes Back, especially the I Am Your Father part of it. That was really cool. I was surprised too at that moment. But yeah, Solo is okay. Not bad as everyone say it is, but unfortunately it did underperform. So, but that doesn't mean anything. People are still gonna be eating up Star Wars Episode 9, including me. Number 7, The Darkest Minds. This came out in August of last year, and it looked, from the trailers, it looked interesting. It was based on a young adult novel with an X-Men sort of vibe to it. And that is the strongest aspect. I do like the X-Men vibe here. And as I said in my thoughts on that, The Darkest Minds, it has good acting, decent directing, good effects, good music. The technical aspects are okay, and the action scenes are okay, but the story could have been better developed. It is predictable at times. It needed more character development and needed more world build up. But I do like the acting from everyone, including Amanda Stenberg, who is also in The Hate U Give, that was a good movie. The Hate U Give was really good. Again, I gave the movie a wait for Netflix, so if I was to watch it again, I'll probably watch it on Netflix. Number 6 is Midnight Sun. This is directed by Scott Spears, stars Bella Thorne and Patrick Schwarzenegger. I like Bella Thorne, but the dialogue was very weak. It got overly dramatic at the wrong times. Better direction was needed, and the ending was very predictable. But I do like the nice humor sprinkled in, the okay technical achievements here. There were some heartfelt moments. It had a nice soundtrack, and the acting was very strong, including on Bella Thorne's part. It's just that all the negative stuff that eats this movie up and makes this a part of the most disappointing, hurts the rest of the movie entirely. But you do have enough good things in here, and I gave the film a middle badly in my review. But yeah, now we get to Josie, number 5. Like I said, this does star Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones, X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix. The performances were nice. The directing is okay, and the cinematography is decent. But the writing was mediocre. The technical aspects weren't really the best handled. The ending was predictable. The story could have been a lot better. There were a lot of slow parts, and the music in here was pretty mediocre. But Josie, the only reason why I'll probably go back and watch this is because I am a fan of Sophie Turner. I am a fan of Game of Thrones. I'm not going to be afraid to admit that as we speak. But it just didn't really do much for me. Coming to number 4 is Traffik. This was a recommendation by a little someone, and the same problems that I have with Midnight Sun and Darkest Minds are here too. The writing is problematic. There's a lack of development for the characters and the story, or the biker gang that's trying to kill them. And the first act was very slow, which that is a problem in the editing process, because the last 2 acts are very strong, and you have decent directing and decent technical aspects here as far as music and the sound effects stuff goes, and the acting is very strong. You have Paula Patton, she's a great actress, Liza Alonso, Omar Epps, Rosalind Sanchez. So the acting is not really the problem. Yeah, it's just those 3 little negatives I mentioned, which is also the same problems I had. But at the end of the day, Traffik It's an okay film, but that first act is heavily slow, so I'll probably... Also, which that does remind me of another movie that will be on my best of that is very slow paced, and it goes by the name of Hereditary, which is still overpraised, and I don't see what everybody else sees in it in Hereditary, but it is good. Coming in number 3 is Proud Mary. I wasn't even that big excited for this. I was somewhat curious, but Proud Mary just... So IGP Henson's not the problem. The acting is decent from everyone else, and you have some okay action and some technical stuff, but it's not enough development for the characters. You don't... The villains are very generic, and the script is very weak. And when I say very weak, I do mean it. Luckily to IGP Henson, you had Acrimony, and Acrimony was one of my guilty pleasures, and I don't mind Acrimony. I know a lot of people will basically hate anything Tyler Perry does when it comes to film, especially Medea, but I'm a supporter of Tyler Perry, and I didn't mind Acrimony. I am a little sad that he's gonna stop doing Medea though, but it's his decision. But yeah, Proud Mary is just, it's okay. Will I watch it again? Like I said, I will wait to watch it again on Netflix, but I don't see myself going back to Proud Mary at all. Speaking of a movie to wait on Netflix, we got number 2, which is A.X.L, which is directed by Oliver Daly, starring Alex Newstatter, Thomas Jane, aka Thomas Jane, Punisher from 2004, and this also has Becky G. Solid performances, nice effects, technical aspects are good, a decent enough score. Not interesting enough. I do like the idea of a robot dog though, that was very cool. Not interesting enough, slow parts, there's barely any character development here at all. But if it hadn't been for the acting, including from Becky G and Thomas Jane, I will shut this off. This easily would have been on my worst of. You're just lucky you made it on most disappointing. Because this, yeah. And the number one most disappointing film here is Mile 22. Now, Mile 22, this is directed by Peter Berg. This is the 4th collaboration between Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg, and I like the other 3 films they did. I love Patriots Day, The Lone Survivor, which is based on a true story, and Deepwater Horizon. And Mark Wahlberg is really good in this movie. So is Lauren Cohan. The performances of the cast are really nice. Cinematography is good, the musical score is good, and the action scenes are decent. The writing is very stiff. The characterization of the characters, you don't get too much of it. The editing is very clunky. There are a lot of predictability moments. It becomes quite boring at times. So the ending was quite disappointing. And once again, just like in Furious 7, I did not care for Ronda Rousey here. She's a cool wrestler. She's an awesome wrestler, but not very good in the acting department. But yeah, those were my 13 most disappointing films, and I'll go over them again before I wrap it up. Number 13 was White Boy Rick. Number 12, The Possession of Hannah Grace. Even though it's a guilty pleasure, it still had to make the most disappointing. Number 11, The Grinch, 2018 edition. Sorry, You didn't really do anything new this time. Number 10 is Terminal. Number 9, Disney's A Wrinkle in Time. Number 8, Solo, A Star Wars Story. Number 7, The Darkest Minds. Number 6 is Midnight Sun. Number 5 is Josie. Number 4 is Traffik. Number 3 is Proud Mary. Number 2 is A.X.L. And number 1 is Mile 22. I will say this, at least Night School is not on here because I like Night School. But that's for another list. Let me know what you guys think of the most disappointing. What are the movies that disappointed you? I know some people will say Aquaman disappointed them. I know some people will probably say Bumblebee disappointed them. But Bumblebee is making $196 million right now as we speak. And Aquaman, you're doing what you're doing at the box office. So yeah. Be sure to follow all my social media links. Let's continue the road to 1K subscribers. You guys keep it cool. And this Future Filmmaker 394 is out. Signing out and join the epic-tasticness. I'll see you guys in the most guilty pleasure. And the best movies and the most underrated and the most surprising.